I moved into my new apartment 3 months ago. It was cheap, close to work, and in a quiet neighborhood. The only catch: the landlord warned me not to use the room at the end of the hall. I thought it was odd, but I wasn't planning to anyway. It was locked when I moved in, and I figured it was just storage. Still, something about the room felt off. The hallway leading to it always seemed darker, colder, even when the lights were on. Sometimes at night, I swore I could hear faint tapping sounds coming from behind the door. One night, I decided to ask the landlord about it. "What's in there?" I asked casually. He hesitated, then gave me a vague answer about structural issues and storage. "Just leave it alone," he said, his voice firm. But now, I couldn't stop thinking about it. A week later, the noises started getting louder, scratching, faint whispers. I told myself it was my imagination, maybe mice or the old pipes. Then, one night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to a loud bang. It sounded like it came from the end of the hall. I grabbed my phone and crept toward the door. The hallway felt freezing. My breath fogged in front of me as I reached the door. I put my ear to it. Nothing. But when I turned to go back to bed, I heard a soft click. The door was unlocked. I froze. My instinct screamed to go back to bed, but curiosity pulled me in. I turned the knob and pushed the door open. Inside was a small, dimly lit room. There was no furniture, no windows, just a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling, and a chair. On the chair sat a stack of old, faded photographs. I hesitated, but I picked up the top photo. It was a picture of a man sitting in the same chair, in this very room. His face was pale, his eyes wide with terror. I flipped to the next photo. It was the same man, but now his face was distorted, blurred, like someone had smeared wet paint over it. The photos got worse. Each one showed him in increasing states of decay, his skin rotting, his body slumping. I dropped the photos and backed away. That's when I noticed the walls. They were covered in scratch marks. Words were etched into the plaster, overlapping and jumbled. One sentence stood out, repeated over and over. "It's watching." I ran out of the room and slammed the door. I locked it and shoved a chair against the handle, then sat on my bed shaking. The rest of the night was silent. The next morning, I called the landlord, demanding answers. He sighed heavily and finally admitted the truth. "There's something wrong with that room," he said. "Every tenant who stayed there, something happens to them. They hear things, see things. One tenant disappeared entirely." "Why rent it out at all?" I asked, horrified. He didn't answer. That night, I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. Around 3 a.m., I heard it again. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was coming from the locked door. Then, the whispering started. Faint, unintelligible words. I froze in my bed, clutching the blanket. The doorknob rattled. I wanted to scream, but my throat closed up. I watched as the chair I'd wedged under the handle slid away on its own, as if pulled by invisible hands. The door creaked open, revealing the dark room. And in the chair, where the photos had been, sat the man from the pictures. He grinned at me, his decayed face twisting unnaturally. "It's your turn now," he said. The door slammed shut. I moved out the next morning. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear scratching at my new apartment door.